Hello, I'm going to be showcasing Dkwtct. It stands for Don't Know What to Call This. It's software for managing layouts and remaps for Waywall and Minecraft speedrunning. When you start it up, it looks kind of like this. You have a keyboard and a mouse here. You have two main layers. You have a layout and the layout section and the rebind section. First, let's go over the layout section. Once you select a key, you can type a character. You can also paste a character. So if, for example, I got some Chinese characters and I pasted, this is actually Japanese, but it doesn't matter, and I pasted them on the layout, I could do that. You also have the shift layer. Which is just what gets typed on the shift layer. You have this bleed chars option here, which basically is whether the chars from the main layer bleed into the shift layer if there's nothing there. So if I put an A on the normal layer, you have there's an A on the shift layer as well. That's pretty much it for the main layer. You have these available layers. You have the normal, shift, alt, and alt shift layer. So when you go to the rebind section, it looks kind of like this. You have all these keys, right? And so when you want to like make a rebind, you just press on the key and type another key. You see it swapped these two keys because I pressed T. You can disable this feature by, disabling the swap rebinds kind of thing. So now if I type Q again, it won't actually switch it back. You have to manually put it back. This feature is useful because it allows your layout to stay intact while you're changing rebinds. So if this is on, let's go to the layout. If we have like some layout here, if this is off, when I make this a T, you see the layout is gonna change, right? So, but it is gonna change back when I put an A back. But if this is on, when I put T there and change this and this and this, the layout's actually gonna stay intact, right? That's why this is useful. You can also clear the rebinds. This also doesn't affect the layout. Yeah, there's another useful feature is when you right click on a key, you get greeted with this little menu, which bugs out if you move it for some reason. It doesn't really matter. And here you're basically free to select from any really key that's, that could be placed on the keyboard. So if you want, for example, home, you press home, and then you have home on this key. In this case, it also switched home with Q. So yeah, swap rebinds. Yeah, so basically once you make some sort of layout and like some rebinds, yeah, we have this layout. We can now save it as, a layout, a Dkwtct layout. This is not actually what we're gonna be importing in Minecraft. This is just for Dkwtct if you wanna save your layouts and rebinds for further use. So let's name this the useful layout. So now if we hit Control N, so that just clears the rebinds in the normal layer. Sorry for the ping. You can open the useful layout and you have basically your progress back. Don't worry about quitting, because if you quit and reopen the software, your progress actually gets saved. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty useful. So next thing I want to talk about is importing and exporting. So importing, you press the import button, right? You get greeted with this little menu. You have these two check marks, so this is basically what you're going to be importing, whether you're going to import an XKB layout. In this case, I want to export one. Here you select your XKB file. I have my layouts in the MCSR file. And then you have this drop down, which just tells you which layouts are in this file. So let's say I want my Icelandic layout. And then the rebinds, we open the rebind section. And basically you can open your rebinds file. So in my case, that's remaps.lua. And then the table which has your rebinds. In my case, that's return, because it just returns the key. We'll get into this later. So yeah, you import this thing, and then you have this layout and the rebinds. They're both available. That's just an example of importing. Sorry for the ping again. Exporting is done with the same kind of thing. So we're saving to MCSR. We're saving to the Icelandic layout. We're exporting to remaps.lua. Yes, replace. And we export, and that just exported the layout. You can have all the shortcuts. Oh yeah, also there's this key map section, which has basically the ANSI and the ISO default key map. You can also make your own key maps. I'm gonna add a GitHub kind of GitHub reference on how to do that. But yeah, this is pretty much all you'll need, I think. Probably, most likely, I don't know. Key maps are more advanced use. So yeah, just kind of stick with ISO and ANSI. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Shortcuts for these things and like shortcuts for this in general can be found on the GitHub page. Now I want to be getting into how to use this in Minecraft. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open your init.lua file or wherever your remaps are. So if you use the generic Gore generic config, that's going to be in remaps.lua. And then set whatever was like, you know, this table, and it was like A is B and like whatever. You're going to replace this thing with require, and then in quotes, you're just going to be like what you saved them to, right? So if in Dkwtct you exported your rebinds as remaps.lua, right? You're gonna wanna set this to remaps, and make sure you also saved it to the same folder that your kind of config lives. And this is pretty much it. Now in Minecraft, you just can kind of use this layout and the remaps. You see how backspace is working, space is working, everything is working. So yeah, that's pretty much it.